Welcome to the Authority Nation podcast. My guest today is Tham, founder and group chairwoman of the ACE Adventure Group, and has literally built an education empire. She started ACE Adventure from her own dining room table, as well as the first school for entrepreneurs in Malaysia. TED Talk speaker and serial educator, I had the pleasure of sitting down with Anne in Ubud, Bali.
I came from the mud, there's dirt on my hands.
Welcome to the Authority podcast.
Thank you, glad to be here.
The first question I have for you is, where did you grow up? What was your childhood like?
I was convent born. I was born in Penang convent, and I studied through a convent school all the way up through to high school, and and we had a great childhood, the sort where we could run around all over the neighborhood, and it was really safe back then.
Were you adopted out, or were you?
Oh no, I grew up studying in a convent.
Oh, studying in a convent. Okay.
Yes,
okay.
yeah.
Okay. So family life, you were close to parents?
Oh yeah, very
Yeah.
much so. The thing is that I come from a home where English was actually the first language because both my parents were in missionary schools. So we grew up speaking English and became, Hokkien literally became my second language. Yeah.
Wow. And were you entrepreneurial as a kid? Like, were you coming up with different ideas for different things, and were you a little mischievous? Or?
Yeah, we got up to a lot of nonsense, around the neighborhood. But yes, when I was about 9 or 10 in school, I was selling stickers to make more pocket money, right? And that actually got me through for quite a while. And then later on, when I was a bit older, I did a lot of part-time jobs as well.
And how did that lead? Like, how did you go from there into education? Like, what made you want to become a teacher? What was that first sort of seed?
Okay. Actually, I never wanted to be a teacher. It was the last job I wanted to ever have. And like they said, do not tempt fate. I did. So I wanted to work in a hotel line, which I did for a couple of years. I loved it. But then I had my kids, and I knew I had to make a decision. And I thought, okay, my husband suggested, why don't you teach go to teaching, go into teaching. And I was like, no way would I teach in the school. But what I never figured on was teaching in a college. And the minute I started doing that, there was no looking back. I enjoyed it thoroughly, and it's been 34 years.
Okay, so you were married before you were even a teacher?
Yes.
And you were how old when you thought, I'm going to learn to be a teacher?
I was about 27 or 28
About
at
27,
that time.
okay, so it wasn't like you were a teenager and, hey, this is going to be my career?
No.
Okay,
Because
amazing.
it was based on my experiences in
Yeah.
school, right? Yes, it was a convent school, and I just didn't like the way I was learning. Friends, all that was fantastic, but it was just the learning. It didn't gel with me, so I understood how it felt as a student who grew up thinking that we're ordinary, really, really ordinary, average, and not even sure we're gonna make it into anything, Yeah.
Did they instill hope in you? Did they sort of say, hey, you can be anything you want to be, or was it just quite rigid? And
Not really.
Yeah.
Even if they did say it's pretty lip service, yeah, because along the way there wasn't. We're not talking about the kind of encouragement, to get you to where you need to go. It was like a lot of doors kind of shut on you, and all because if you're not good in subjects, or you're not a high performer, then it just kind of means that you won't really do very well in life, and that was what we got when we were young.
yeah. So so you trained to be a teacher, and you were still in Penang at this time, or?
I didn't train to be a teacher. That came a whole lot later.
You didn't train?
No, I was. I did English language as my first degree.
Okay.
I went into the hotel line. And then when I started teaching at the college, nobody asked for any qualifications,
Oh, so
right?
you were an English teacher?
Yes, in
okay.
college.
Okay.
But because I loved it so much, I decided to take a diploma at that time I did a TESOL diploma.
When did the spark hit you? When did you think, this isn't really working, or the education system's not working, I'm going to do my own thing?
Oh, that came about 10 years into my teaching career, or maybe about 8 years in, I couldn't stand what was going on with the outcomes of the schools, right? My biggest pet peeve was this. I couldn't believe that children were learning a language for 11 years and came out at the end of it being very bad at it, or like 80% are not speaking at the level they should be speaking at. Something is so seriously wrong, and we can do it for all 3 languages. Well, maybe
After
2.
11 years.
Yes, after two languages are just definitely not up to the level it should be. So I decided, I said, something is wrong here. So I started fixing it by doing my own classes at home, and that's when I started with.
So hang on, these were in the evening, or you were still teaching
I
during
was
the
still
day?
teaching.
And then you're doing classes at home and
Yes,
everything?
because I felt that you can't fix it in college, because that was what we were asked to do. How do you do that in 6 months? When 11 years can't do it, how in the world does anybody expect a teacher to do it in 6 months? And the students were doing everything. Like they were studying courses from Australia, from Canada, from the UK, from America, and you're required to have the language level of a native speaker at the age of maybe 17 or 18, right? So Malaysian students, and I was teaching students I had Yugoslavian students, Czechoslovakian, Brazilian, I've taught before, Pakistan, India, you just name it.
Wow.
And I mean, you had to fix it, right? So anyway, a whole lot of them were Malaysian students. Then the end, what I did was, I said, look, we got to fix it further down, and I didn't think that we could even fix it from secondary level, so I went all the way down to primary school.
Because that's where they're starting, so yeah, okay.
Yeah, because
sense.
at that point, when they learn a language, they do not translate.
Right.
Yes, that's where the damage comes, when they know enough of 2 languages and they start to translate.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's so can you describe that for me? Like, how does that work? So they're not translating in the first year or 2 of learning?
Okay,
So
when they're younger, they're learning the language. It's based on the flow of the language, and they will speak it, right? So we got them to do a lot of reading, and you can't just read like without voicing it, right? You had to hear it, because the thing that's missing in most Asian language teaching is the listening component and the speaking component. And I'm not talking about just putting them to speak, but they really need to say it correctly. So we
Right.
kind of created a very artificial environment where the kids had to read out loud. That's all we did. We just corrected their not just enunciation, but the flow of the language. And once you get the flow, the grammar will follow.
Did you find, were you getting to do that in a group setting, and did you find the strong ones would pick up the weak ones? Is that sort of how it worked, or was
No,
it more?
we made sure that all the kids who are stronger had to be really fluent. The kids who are weaker, all it takes is for them to read the same thing 5 times and they'll get it fluent.
Okay, yeah.
So you just adjust it for them. And so the first things the parents realized was that, oh, my kids can read so much better. It had intonation, they had expressions, and then after that, the kids started speaking English, and that was when the parents knew that there was something going on in our classes. Because you had to fix that before you can really get them into
Yeah.
writing, right? And then after that, we got them to do presentations, and so the kids became very fearless for all. I'm not talking about a selected few. Our purpose was to make sure every single child could write creatively, and every single one of them could present.
Wow.
That was our purpose.
And at this stage, you're still in your home.
Yes.
You're still in your home, and parents are thinking, hey, something special is going on here.
Yeah.
Okay. And so from there, because I mean, now it's grown into a massive multi-school organisation. How did you go from there to where
Okay,
you are?
that it took me about. I think it also started at about 5 years into running my own classes, that I realized that I'm actually running a business, and I know nothing about business, and I got a book, Robert Kiyosaki, of course, yeah, and Rich Dad Poor Dad resonated with me, because there were some things in there that he said that I had gone through. You
Wow.
know, the other reason why
His dad was a teacher, a principal, yeah.
Yes. So anyway, when I read it, I said, okay, you know what? I think I better go out and buy something. I didn't know what I was going to buy. I knew it had to be a piece of property, but I knew that I was doing the right thing with the studies, with the business, yeah. But anyway, there was a whole lot of other thing going on. I knew I had to invest. And we didn't have resources to learn from anybody back then, right? But having said that, we went on, and about 10 years in, I felt that I think we know how to fix what is going on in the Malaysian school system, because I spent so many years being very close to my students. They talk to me a lot. When you hear the kind of stories they share coming up from what's going on in their schools, it didn't matter. I had kids from up north in Penang, down south and east coast, west coast, East Malaysia, West Malaysia. They had very similar problems. They hated school. They absolutely hated school. And some of the things...
What was the common denominator? Was it the structure or...?
It's just a lot of things just didn't make sense, yeah. They were doing badly in school. They had to struggle. Even those who did well, they did well, but there's no joy in the learning, yeah. There was a lot of tuition that they had to go to in order to make it. And then if they're from some of the vernacular schools, it's like compulsory. They're studying from morning until 4:30 in the evening. And then after that, there's tuition to go to, and that's primary school, By the time you get to secondary, I tell you, the motivation to even want to study is all long gone. So by the time they come to us at college, there were so many things to fix. Confidence level was the biggest one. The second one was there was no way they had the ability to speak in front of people. The numbers were just too few, and that didn't come from school. It came from, whatever it was, the parents, or some selected few in the schools they came from, because they could speak better, so they were asked to, present for the school, or they were prefects and things like this.
So you're looking for the property, but you found some land or like a schoolhouse you wanted to buy, or?
Actually, I saw the perfect piece of land. I said, this piece of land is waiting for me, 4 acres, and it was like I could just picture the school there. But the cost of the land was so high that it's like about $3 million US for a patch of grass, and we're not even talking about putting up a building. So,
Wow.
But it didn't wait for me. Never mind. So we figured, okay, we're a bunch of teachers. We had no resources.
So it wasn't just you at this stage. You had hired extra teachers?
Well, I had teachers, because 2 years in, I decided that I think I needed to grow this. And
Sure.
so I decided to bring teachers in, and I taught them everything I knew to make sure that we could replicate what we were doing. But what happened was getting my sister back from Singapore, because she's the engineer. So the science and math is her area. I'm a language person in the arts, right? So and she was teaching in Singapore, and we discussed this, and so she made the decision to come home. And then that was when the idea of the school came about. I said, look, I think we can do this together, But the problem was, because between the two of us, we didn't have the resources of a 4-acre piece of land, because that was the requirement, right?
That was the minimum. I see.
Back
Okay.
then, and you had to have all the facilities and so on. So we kind of sat on it for about more than a year, and we were like, how are we going to do this, And so anyway, the idea of running it as a center, a tuition center, and we made sure that we were compliant, because with the regulations and everything, because we didn't just go out there and just open up one. We made sure that we were teaching only the secondary students, because they had the choice. Primary kids had to be in government schools,
Sure.
So when we got that information, I said, I think we can do this. Let's start with what we did as an English center, with very limited resources. And so we did that. And who found my first premise for me? It was my maid.
Really?
Yes, because in Malaysia we have the luxury of having maids, So she found it for me. She said, Mrs., there's a kindergarten near where she stays, and do you want it? I say, sure, let me go have a look. And it was just perfect for us to start. It It was a small, cozy little place. Just that outside of this middle range apartment building is this low cost flats, right? We don't call them apartments then, they're flats. And that kind of scared quite a number of parents away. But those who were very determined with what we were doing, they came. And we started with about 130 students.
Wow, that's a good size to hang on, back the truck up. How were you servicing those students before you got that just from your house or each teacher's house as well?
No, after 5 years, I had to shift out because we grew to, it was too congested in my house. So we moved into a shop, right? And from then on, we were running from the shops. And we grew to quite a sizable number of students.
And that's,
and it was those students, we kind of mooted the idea to them. I went to the classes and said, you know, guys, what if we had a school like this? And we said that, you know, where they can eat in class, no school uniform, you know, and we weren't going to fuss with their hair, the way they looked. They loved it. Because they come to our tuition centers, right, for English classes, wearing whatever they liked. And they ate in class. But they're lovely kids. They pay attention, they're working very hard. So I knew that it didn't matter. But it did matter if they were hungry. You know, when kids are hungry, they cannot concentrate. And they're all growing young people from primary to secondary. So anyway, we said, and they loved it. And then immediately that evening, one of them yanked the mum. Said, you got to go and see Teacher Ann. She saved us. That's what he said. The mum came and told me that. I'm like, okay, that's cool. So when we saw the reaction, we said, okay, you know what? We've got 6 months. We better get this up and running. And that was what we did. We started with that. And then we grew to a 5-story shop lot. We took on 3. And then that became a sort of like a school. But within that year itself, we knew we had to become an actual school. So it took me another year to look for premises, and we had two landlords who would let us have the premise. One had an existing premise, the other was ready to build a school for us. We're like, okay, that's cool, and not expecting to get licenses for both, and we did. That's how the whole 2 schools began.
So 2 simultaneously at the same time?
We got the approval for both, but this would take about 3 years to build, so it gave us a bit of a breather.
Yeah, okay, so that one and then, wow, okay.
Yeah. It was the second school that we had. So we had this sort of like a school and then a school, and this other one, we're like, what are we going to do? You know, it's a huge piece of property, and how are we going to add more value to it? But because I had been following you know, the idea that financial education was critical, and I knew how it impacted me, right? And I was introducing it already to my outgoing students, doing about 9-hour financial education classes for them. They loved it. So I said, you know what? I think we should have an entrepreneur school. So we started creating curriculum for kids from the age of 6 years old until 17. And we said, no, it cannot be a holiday program or a weekend program. It's got to be supported, and it's got to run through 11 years. Because having experienced what it means to run a business, I knew it was a journey. It was. You can't do this alone, you know, much less asking kids and teaching them, you know, and then you expect them from 9 hours to just go out and run a business. So we decided, okay, from young, and our target was to have the secondary kids start businesses, because I think the proof in the pudding is that an education system works is that if the kids know how to monetize their skills.
Yes.
Okay, that was where we were coming from.
Absolutely.
But we had no idea that the primary kids would be the ones to also want to start businesses. And I had a 7-year-old girl who, we had a bazaar, and you know, they had their own little booths and all that. But the story from this little girl was that, you know, Mom, I want to have a booth. And the mom said, oh God, I'm going to make cupcakes, right? But no, she didn't want cupcakes, she wanted tea. Specifically, like floral herbal tea.
Wow.
Because she always felt better when her mom gave her tea if she was unwell, right? So that was how it started. That kind of reasoning coming from a 7-year-old
Yeah.
really, blew my mind. And that went on, and then we also had a boy who decided to have his own business of doing hydroponics. But the best part of it all was what he told his mom. He came home one day and told her that, you know what, we cannot plant pak choy because 200 grams is only two something. We should plant kale because 200 grams is 12 ringgit. I was like, wow, he's 10.
He was 10?
He was 10. He's just turned 11 this year, right?
That is so awesome.
But that's not all.
Yeah.
He's actually, he has a business model, the mom told me, and it's a membership model. So I had teachers and parents who are part of his membership. And with the minute his vegetables are ready, he's got ready audience, ready customers.
10 years old. Do you feel like you're underachieving maybe?
The one that got to me more is that he knew how to plant those vegetables.
Yeah.
He knew how to work the hydroponics, and plants die under my hands. That's the one that kind of
Yeah.
got me. I'm like,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
How many students do you have today?
okay,
2019?
schools, we have about 1,700, but our language classes, we have another 3,000 students there.
So almost 5,000 students all up. How many staff, teachers, trainers?
Okay, we have about 250
Yeah.
people working with us.
And across how many schools?
3 schools.
3 schools.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're all based
In Kuala Lumpur.
in Kuala Lumpur. Yeah.
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 But we are at the moment, we've just opened our first kindergarten in Jakarta. We've just opened a hub down in Johor. It's called ACE, Co-Creative Entrepreneur Hub. So we're bringing out
Love
the programs that we're running in our schools, and we're making it available to kids in the community that may not get this in their schools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And your plans for the future, you have some pretty big plans. Do you want to share anything that you have in the pipeline?
Actually, our vision right from the very beginning was to impact as many kids as possible. But bearing in mind at that time, we did not even think about being able to impact Klang Valley itself that much less to even go out of Klang Valley. So, but now it looks like we're able to impact kids even outside of our own country. Yeah, so that was, and we are heading into Indonesia more. We are heading into Shenzhen is another one. Yeah, in China. So.
And what about online? Are you looking at entering into online markets or anything like that?
We are. The only thing is we felt that for the moment our skills are actually on the ground, face to face, face with the kids, building rapport with them and having that connection. And we felt because we're focusing a lot on the human component.
Sure.
Yes, I know a lot of schools are going into technology, where the VR is concerned, or even robotics and all that. Yeah, those things are a must. But what we did was we've been focusing on the human component for actually 20 over years. Even how to be kind to one another and to to accept the fact that someone is different.
So relationships.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so when we get them to work together, it's not about, oh, you know what, this is what the world's going to be like. You won't be able to have a choice in picking who you work with. And I don't like that because it's a very victim mindset.
Yeah.
You see, we do have a choice. And I want the students to learn that, look, you have a choice to choose. And then those students who are not behaving well, you know what? Your friends have the right to choose. And so do you want to be someone that people want, all your friends want to have in their groups, or someone nobody wants in their group? So that really, really gave them a reality check right there. And normally it's quite easy to adjust them from there.
Yeah. You've done some TED Talks.
Yes, I've done one before a couple of years ago on gamification, because we created the first chemistry role-playing game in the world. Yeah, naively thinking that we could really
Chemistry as in science, not romantic. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, but we turned it into a story.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we had a great game, but we just didn't know how to distribute it. And we're in this part of the world where you have a lot of parents not supporting kids playing games. And we had a lot more, I guess, a lot more reaction from the US and actually from the UK and Australia and Canada. But we didn't have the means to go there and sell it. And
Yeah.
we didn't know how to do it. So that was quite a dilemma for us. But anyway, it became a visible representation of what we do in our school because we were kind of challenging all the boundaries of how classes need to be taught, right? So we have actually a game to teach. It's a game that runs over a couple of hours where you have, for econs, where you have majors and wizards and after that you just debrief six topics all at one go because they are interrelated. Yeah.
And just for the audience at home or in the car, or they shouldn't be watching if you're driving, wherever you are, what's the name of your school?
Okay, we have two. So it's Sri Amas International School, and the entrepreneur one is Dwi Amas Entrepreneur School, and it was the first entrepreneur school in our country.
Do you associate with schools or colleges or anything outside of Kuala Lumpur? Do you have partnerships or affiliations with?
Okay, we haven't gone that far because we were very focused on creating all this curriculum, right? But what we got, which was a real big surprise, was getting contacted from the UK. So it was Cambridge University, the student union contacted us. They wanted to feature us in their yearbook, and we ended up being featured 6 years in a row. And under chapters like world class, and I would be like, we were so thrilled with that. Yeah.
Wow. What great acknowledgement, for the hard work. Yeah, come a long way from the dining room table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the other thing is
Yes.
this. Because as an entrepreneur school, this is a story that I haven't really shared out there. Two of my business partners are my ex-students.
Really?
Yes, I haven't really told this story, and I think it should be told. They were 19 when we set up the company together, not even thinking that we would become a school. So they own the 3 schools together with me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that's proof that it works.
Yeah, it's that.
Yeah.
And so we have collaborations and partnerships with ex-students. We have collaborations and partnerships with teachers. We set up businesses together. We even encourage our teachers to run businesses and to leverage on the ecosystem. And we ask them what it is that we can do to help them. And then we co-invest together in businesses, and some of them are our teachers' businesses.
Wow.
Yeah, so, yeah.
It sounds like such a great community. Everyone's just working for a greater cause.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah.
Great stuff. Awesome. Looking ahead, what does the future look like? I mean, do you ever think you'd open schools, say, in the Western world, the States or Australia or NZ? Or
Okay, this came about because, as we were opening schools in the East, right? We realized what we had was a merging of the education from the East and the West. So because we felt that there were many things, great things from the West, and there were many great things from the East, and we brought them together. And then I had a friend who was telling me that, you know what, Anne, what you guys have got can be taken to the West. And I thought about it. Yes, it's true. And I think it's time because the growth is actually in the East. Over the next few decades, it's going to be in the East. And so what better way for the children in the West to build relationships and build, partnerships, except maybe to come to the East. So that was,
wow.
Yeah, so that was what happened. But then we were working towards also solving the issues of the East. And that was how it all came about, the East and West thing. And we felt that, the solution to the East, the education issues in the East has to come from the East. It cannot come from the West, because it can't just translate over here. It doesn't reach to the majority of the children in our Eastern countries. So anyway, that was how it came about, and that the whole idea of going to the West. So we ended up even collaborating with some Finnish partners, and we have got a Finnish...
All the way...
Yeah,
Finland.
from Finland, yeah. So we have a Finnish-Asian
Crazy.
hybrid of a kindergarten with entrepreneurship in it. Yeah. So Finnish teachers...
Teachers,
Yes,
okay,
they're experts there.
Okay.
And they've partnered up with us to create this hybrid that would suit the East. Yeah.
Amazing. And thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you
Really
so much.
appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Where can the people check out your schools?
They can just go into dwiamas internationalschool.com. They'll be able to find us there, or sriamasinternationalschool.com.
Fantastic.
I came from the mud. There's dirt on my hands.
I hope you got some value from our conversation. Like, share and subscribe to our channel and hit that bell so you know when we upload the next Authority Nation episode.
From the Lord.